Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome to my channel where I'm going to be giving you a little bit of advice on a question that I get asked all the time. And I think it's a really important question for folks like yourself to ask, and I'll just try to give my wisdom on whatever I can here. Now, take it with a grain of salt, and you'll have to, of course, follow your own path. But anyway, here's the question that I often get, and I think that will be useful. And it comes in, and I've had this in different forms, but a nice post on Twitter recently came in saying, hi, Mike, I'm at a stage where I have an interesting job and decent pay, but it isn't exactly aligning with me. I don't know what my vision is, so wanted to ask you, how do I find out what I want to do with the rest of my life? Of course, in software engineering field, so C++ and real-time systems. So I'm not here to give you advice on how to run your actual, personal life, but as far as career, I can give a few bullet points or notes that I think might be useful. So I've thought about this a lot and even looking at my own career, but the very first thing I want to say with these types of questions here is to, follow your gut. Chances are you know what you want to do or something that's interesting. Very often I'll run into folks who have said, I love games, I've loved them all my life. And they sort of decide though that maybe it's too hard or whatever, and they don't want to pursue that passion because there's this other route that's immediately available. And again, I think that might be fine because you have to sort of balance what you're going to be doing in your working life and your professional life. And of course, finding balance is perhaps a whole video in itself. But I think you still have to trust your instincts and maybe give it a go. In this case of this particular question here, where they're saying, well, the job's, interesting enough, but it's just not aligning with maybe your longer term vision. I think you have an idea of what that means. So maybe the job itself isn't the problem, but maybe you want to be running your own company, or maybe it's not in the right domain. So think about if that's the case, maybe answering that question first. Do you want to be a business owner? Do you want to be working in a completely different domain? Maybe you're happy here, but you want to be doing something greater than just the software engineering portion, where maybe that means writing books or sort of expanding in some way. This sounds like a question of you're trying to find where you can grow next. And if it's not somewhere that's in your passion, meaning something that's a combination of things you're excited about and an area where you think you can grow and keep learning, that's usually an indicator in my mind that, might be time to change things up. Again, I don't know how long this person's been working at a particular job, but that might be a little bit of a clue to, again, make a switch or pursue some new opportunity so you can grow and stay excited about things. And sometimes it's also a question when it comes to your role at companies about how much autonomy do you have? Again, try to identify if that's the actual issue here. Does it have something to do with, because it sounds like if I have an interesting job, then maybe, that's good, but maybe the alignment is part of the mission of the company or these types of things. So, try to do a little bit of introspection, and that could mean actually writing things out on a list just so you can see it and not keep it in your head when it comes to identifying what the next move is. Now, as far as the latter part of this question, thinking about, what to do in terms of C++ and real-time systems, and again, this is generic for any language or domain that you want to work in, I recommend that folks sort of build skills on the side. If you're thinking about making a transition to a new career path, so maybe that's from software engineering out of software engineering to something else, or, from some other field, biology, psychology, into software engineering, you're probably going to want to try to take on a little hobby project. And that could mean a few hours on the weekend. Try to set up a little bit of a schedule to see if you'll enjoy the work and, going through that process of learning the skills. As you're learning, say you want to go from web development to graphics programming in C++, then, do a little graphics project, build a little game, and see if you enjoy that process. See if you're getting that growth and if it's exciting for you. I think those are two sort of good things that you can try to follow. And if you enjoy those sort of tasks, that could be an indicator. Now, enjoyment sometimes is correlated a little bit with how easy things come to you. So be a little bit cautious, meaning you might have to put a little bit of work and time building up the skill sets. Usually as you do more of something, you tend to like it more. So give it a little bit of an honest try, meaning, say, hey, I'm going to dedicate 4 hours every Sunday or 30 minutes a day, however you can structure it to work in your current life to try a little bit of a hobby project. So that's just sort of some pragmatic, building some skills on the side. The other thing, again, not financial advice, but if you're thinking about making a complete 180 turn as far as careers, consider, just having a little bit of savings and that type of thing so that you're not, fully stressed on payment and these types of things. I'll often see folks transition in coming, say, to a different degree program, doing a graduate school or an MBA or these types of things. And those financial stresses can be difficult. So make sure you have some, savings, saved up. You can watch your favorite financial YouTuber to figure out some of the basics, but 6 to 12 months, living expenses is probably a good idea, and a little bit of an emergency fund if you're thinking about making a big transition. Okay. Not sure based on this person, but just general advice on folks. Now, the other thing I'll say, again, thinking about or speaking to the vision part of this question and where to sort of find that is, the great news is you can find some inspiration on things like YouTube, other folks who are streaming. You can look at folks' LinkedIn profiles, and that might even be comforting just to see the different trajectory that folks have in their career. I think you'll find that many folks do switch jobs over time, or do try different things, again, to get that growth and excitement so you can keep learning things and learning from others as you work with others in your professional life. You might find other inspiration even in, biographies and texts. That's a great way to sort of stay excited and energized. I think it's important to be looking for sources of inspiration out there, whether you're just excited about, in particular, software or tech or these types of things. I think that's useful. In reality, I've found when it comes to career, when making a move, I can really only think about 2 or 3 years ahead of time. As much as I've tried to think, what am I going to be doing in a decade or 20 years? Life changes and takes you on different paths. So if you can try to, again, look for inspiration for maybe the longer term goal of, if you want to run a company or these types of things, think about what those little 2 to 3 year steps are. I'm going to work at this company and acquire these skills or become a really good C++ programmer or these types of things. I think that's maybe useful in the sense that you can see it and plan. You can actually plan out, a few years ahead versus if you're thinking, decades ahead. And it puts a little bit less pressure on yourself when you can see that progress. The other note I'll just make on planning and thinking ahead on some of these things when it comes to vision is I've seen folks underestimate greatly what they can achieve in a year as far as how much they can learn. Now, folks probably overestimate what they can learn in, say, a day or a week, but I would say much, much more underestimate what they learn in a year. And I see this all the time with learners and students and folks who have watched, my content here, for even 6 months, how much they can progress. So just something to keep in mind as you're thinking about your scope. And the last thing is I'll kind of summarize here and hopefully help answer this question, or maybe just give some pragmatic advice about, saving some money, doing some financial planning so that you can make this leap, and then thinking about what your scope is and actually writing it down is, this idea of, and I've seen this analogy a couple of times, so I'll just put it up on a slide here. You only really have to be right once. So if you think about this dartboard here, right, you're throwing a few darts on the dartboard. You really just need to land a bullseye one time. So I think it is okay and it is natural to, try a few different jobs. Some folks land at one company and they spend their whole careers there. That's great. Maybe they knew exactly what they wanted or got themselves in the right situation immediately with good management and leadership and career opportunities and skill set development. That's great. But for some other folks, moving around is another way to get those skills. It's healthy. It's normal, I think, to be moving around in jobs, at least at this time. So keep that in mind, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. I think the skills will come. Just keep putting in the work, like it sounds like you're doing. And I know a lot of you folks who are watching this type of content, where I'm teaching and learning and getting inspiration in that way. You're on the right path. So think a little bit ahead. I think that's valuable. Come up with a little bit of game plan. Try some projects that you're excited about, and then you'll find that growth and be able to grab some of those opportunities, whether they're in the forms of jobs or creating your own business or app or these types of things. Will start to play out. So anyway, with that said, thanks for the question. I've been meaning to make this type of video for a long time. I've had some notes for a while and I get it asked a lot, and I hope that's useful. So trust your gut. Most folks know what they want to do. Just gotta take the little steps to get you there along the way. The last sort of things that I'll say is, since you're asking specifically, and I get asked this a lot about C++ and real-time systems or computer graphics, sometimes you might be not able to land a big job opportunity at famous company that develops some game or some software, but that's okay. Can you find a tangential opportunity that's close, right? Just so you're aiming in that right direction, again, heading towards that bullseye. That's what I'll sort of say for folks. So with that said, thanks for watching, folks. Thanks as always for your time and attention. I hope this was useful to some of you folks out there, and I'll look forward to speaking to you later. So feel free to engage in the discussions below and be happy to talk to you more there. Take care, folks.